We are kicking off our 2024 predictions with what has become the premier program in college football, the Georgia Bulldogs, and we'll be going through every single Power 4 team, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and look for these videos at 4 o'clock Eastern Time pretty much every day, at least Monday through Friday, and at some point we'll probably even do them on the weekends as well. But yeah, let's talk about Georgia really quickly, and then I'll go through and do my predictions. It's a team that I feel like last year, if they had made it into the college football playoff, they would have had a really, really good shot to win it. I would still argue that this was maybe the best team in the country. I felt like it was them in Michigan. Now, they didn't play great against Alabama, and it cost them, and they didn't get into the college football playoff. And that's why you got to play the games. You got to win the games. But you look at what they've got coming back. Yeah, you can kind of look at some of the losses that they had. But what they've done such a great job of is just reloading. And when I say reloading, I don't necessarily mean bringing in new freshmen, bringing in transfers, but they play so many guys, and they have guys that were maybe second string last year that had a lot of time on the field, and they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be ready to be that next group of starters for this team. And again, you look at the roster, you've got Carson Beck, who a lot of people have as maybe the best returning quarterback in the country, or a top 5 quarterback, something that they haven't had. You know, remember, they won their national championships with Stetson Bennett. They're loaded at running back. They're deep there. Receiver, you know, they maybe don't have that elite receiver. They don't have that Brock Bowers. So that's something to watch. But the offensive line should be really strong. Defensive line, maybe one of the best in the country. The rest of the defense really, really good. And so there really just are no weaknesses with this Georgia team. So let's get into the predictions now. Vegas has their over-under win total at 10.5. So 10 or 11 wins, the most likely outcome for Georgia, according to Vegas. And, I guess that's fair. It's a tough schedule. It is a tough schedule with road games against Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. And so you could see how, yeah, this team could absolutely lose a couple of games, maybe even 3. I think our projection, when we do our projected record formula, actually has this team at 9-3. Because of this schedule. But we're going to get into it here, and we'll start with Clemson. The game will be in Atlanta. That's how they will kick off the season there on August 31st. Clemson, I think, is going to be a pretty good team this year. I just don't think they're really on Georgia's level. They don't really have any major weaknesses. Maybe the secondary could be a problem for Clemson, and I think Georgia definitely going to be able to attack that with Carson Beck at quarterback. And I just think the defense for Georgia is going to be so good. It's going to be tough for Clemson to do a whole lot. I think this is a lower, medium scoring type game. But I think Georgia is just too good. I think they probably win it by a couple of touchdowns. And then Tennessee Tech should be an easy win. So I've got them starting off 2-0. Then they'll play on the road at Kentucky September 14th. Interesting game here. A Kentucky team that should be pretty solid on defense. And you've got the transfer quarterback, Brock Vandagriff, coming from Georgia. How is that going to play out? I would feel like Georgia's coaches know how to defend him. And it's just a Kentucky team that is always so solid. They're always so consistent. You look at their receivers this year. They've got a great 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Running backs maybe not quite as good as what they've had in the past, but someone could emerge there. And again, I think their defense is going to be solid, so it's going to be a game where Georgia's not going to run away with it, but kind of like with Clemson, Georgia's just the better team. There's really no area where I'd say Kentucky is better than Georgia. They're not going to really have any advantages, so no reason to pick against Georgia. I know it's on the road, but I think Georgia goes in there and takes care of business. Maybe it's only about a 2-touchdown win, but I do have them winning this one and getting to 3-0. Then they get their bye week, or first bye week after that game, and then it's a tough game on the road at Alabama. Of course, Alabama's kind of tough to predict. We don't know exactly what we're going to get in the Kalen DeBoer era here. Jalen Milroe as a passer, how much can he progress? Because I think you're going to have to throw the football in this offense. They're going to have a good offensive line. They're going to have a good run game. And if they use Milroe as a runner, this offense is going to be very tough to stop. I think Georgia is equipped to maybe slow them down, though. And then you look at the other side, Alabama's defense is going to be really good up front. I do have some concerns in the secondary. They're going to be very young there, and I think Georgia can take advantage of that. I think it's a hard-fought game, but I just think Georgia is the better team. I think the secondary for Alabama, you look at them maybe having a weakness, and Georgia maybe, or really just does not have a weakness. So I just think Georgia, the more complete team, the better team overall, the more experienced coach in the SEC with Kirby Smart. I think he goes in there and gets a win over Alabama and gets this Georgia team to 4-0. Then they'll play Auburn on October the 5th. Of course, they had a scare against Auburn last year in Jordan Hare, an Auburn team that really wasn't great. And Auburn took them down to the wire. It's a rivalry. It's always, or I shouldn't say always. There have been some great games in this rivalry. Georgia's kind of dominated as of late, and I think that'll continue here. It's in Athens, so I don't think Auburn will play great. And Georgia's just a much better team, so I don't expect this game to really be all that close. Again, I think Auburn's headed in the right direction. I think their offense maybe is a little bit better, or will score a little bit more in this game than last year potentially, but I don't know. Again, it's different when this game's played in Athens versus Auburn. And I just think that Georgia, again, will take care of business here and get the win. So 5-0 start. Then it's Mississippi State on October the 12th. I really feel like Mississippi State is down there close to Vanderbilt. I think they're the second worst team in the SEC. I don't think this game is competitive at all. I think Georgia wins by 30+, and they roll over the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Then they'll play Texas on the road October the 19th. This is going to be a huge game, one of the biggest games of the season. I think it's a top 4 matchup. They're going on the road here, so that's going to be a tough one. And just like with Alabama, I think Texas maybe has some question marks in the secondary, and I think their front seven maybe not as good as Alabama. So I think Georgia's going to be able to score in this game, but I think Georgia's going to have a hard time slowing down this Texas offense. A Texas offense that's going to be balanced. They're going to be able to run the football. They're going to be able to throw it. They're going to have a good offensive line. And again, I think Georgia's going to have a hard time slowing them down. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game. Again, I don't know if anyone's going to slow down Texas this year. This offense is just going to be that good. But I think Georgia, again, is going to have some success when they've got the ball. So I'm expecting maybe not a shootout, but a higher scoring game. But I just like Georgia's defense to step up and make a play. I think they get the win on the road. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Texas won this game. And this is one of the toughest predictions for me. I was back and forth on this game, but I'm going to go with Georgia, just the more complete team. I think they get the win here. Again, their defense just good enough to get a couple of stops and win this one. Then they'll play Florida on, well, they get a bye week after Texas. Then they'll play Florida on November 2nd in Jacksonville. We know about this rivalry. Florida, I think, is being really underrated. I know they had some bad moments last year, but this roster overall is still pretty good. It's just that they play a brutal schedule, and it's going to be tough for them to get to a bowl game just because of their schedule, not necessarily because this is going to be a bad team. So I think Florida will fight in this game. Rivalry, it'll be physical, it'll be chippy, kind of like it always is. But I think Georgia kind of pulls away late. Maybe it's one of those that's close at halftime, but Georgia pulls away late, and they get the win in a similar fashion to maybe the Clemson game and the Kentucky game. Again, I do like Georgia to get to 8-0. Then they'll play Ole Miss on November 9th. This was supposed to be a big game last year, and remember, Ole Miss just was not ready. They went into Athens and just got absolutely destroyed. I think this is an Ole Miss team that is much better prepared this year. I love what they've done in the transfer portal, especially in the trenches. The defensive line now that they've got. This is a different defense for Ole Miss, at least on paper. You know, we haven't seen it on the field. We haven't seen it all come together. But I think they've made enough upgrades on defense that they're able to, not get scored on every possession by a really good Georgia offense. And I think Ole Miss's offense is going to have some success. You talk about being able to, just like with Texas, being able to run the ball, throw the ball. This is going to be a very tough offense to stop. And I think coming off of a rivalry game against Florida, Georgia, maybe they're not quite 100%. Ole Miss comes in here. You also look at the psychological factor. Maybe Georgia's a little overconfident. They're undefeated at 8-0. They blew them out last year. I think Ole Miss finds a way to steal this one. I think they get the upset. I'm actually going to go with the Rebels to beat Georgia and to give them their first loss of the season. Again, I think the upgrades on defense just enough for Ole Miss with their offense to find a way to win what should be a thriller, should be a great game. And again, I really feel like between Texas and Ole Miss on the road, Georgia's going to split those. So maybe it goes the other way. Maybe they beat Ole Miss and they lose to Texas, but I'm going to go with it this way. Again, coming off of that rivalry game against Florida. They'll play Tennessee next on November 16th. Tennessee offense. You talk about facing good offenses. Again, you got Texas, you got Ole Miss, you got Tennessee. This is another one, and I think Georgia will give up some points. But I think Tennessee's secondary is going to struggle this year. That's kind of been a theme here. A lot of teams, I think, are going to be down a little bit in the secondary. So you might see some really good passing games this season. I think Georgia, they're able to take advantage of that. They win a close game at home, but I think a lot of points for Georgia. I just think they score a lot of points on that Tennessee defense. I know Tennessee has a great defensive line, but I think Georgia's offensive line is going to be up for that challenge. And again, their receivers make a lot of plays, and they win this one. But pretty close. Maybe a 10 to 14 point win for Georgia. And then I think they beat UMass. And then it's Georgia Tech on November 30th. It seems like Georgia Tech getting better and better and better and getting a little bit more and more competitive in this rivalry. I haven't been able to really make a game of it, but I see it's similar game to last year. Georgia Tech will hang around, but Georgia just too much, and I think they'll win this game against their rivals and finish 11-1. So I've got Georgia losing one game. It's a tough schedule. Wouldn't be surprised if they lost a couple. I do not see them going undefeated, though. I think this schedule is just too tough. I think 10-2 is actually more likely than 12-0. But I'm going to go with 11-1, a loss to either Texas or Ole Miss. But I'm going to say it's Ole Miss there on November the 9th. That'll be the one loss. And again, should be enough to get Georgia into the SEC Championship. But we'll wait and see what the other predictions look like. Would love to get your thoughts and your predictions on Georgia. Let me know what you think about the Bulldogs down in the comments below.